Today, on episode 42 of the Stoic Strength Trainer podcast, there's no pleasure as pure as virtuous self-control. We'll explore what it means to operate with virtuous self-control in the moment of choice and why virtue is its own reward. All right, welcome to the show. I'm Corey Samuelson. This is chapter 34 of the Gym Kyridian, and I'll just get right into it because I've got quite a bit of commentary on this one. Begin quote. There is no pleasure as pure as that of exercising your virtuous self-control. When pleasure, for its own sake, tempts you, pause. Consider your choice. What is the cost to your character of embracing the action that will result in the pleasure? If it will be at the cost of your excellence and result in your own diminished opinion of your character, renounce. And, having renounced, what will you gain? You will think better of yourself. You will stand a little taller in your own estimation. You will have become stronger in the face of similar temptations. All worthy ends through excellent means. End quote. So the first thing I want to do here is clarify the distinction I make between self-control and virtuous self-control. We, as Stoic strength athletes, are not aspiring to mere self-control. A person could operate with self-control to master vicious means in pursuit of vicious ends. And here I'm using the word vicious to mean vice as opposed to virtue. So self-control on its own is neutral, like any tool. A hammer can be used to build a home or destroy one. So self-control without virtue is exhibited all the time. People pursue celebrity or wealth with incredible amounts of discipline and determination, all while lying, cheating, stealing, and these are not the types of behaviors that we want, that we prefer for ourselves. So self-control on its own as a means of operating in the world is not the goal. The goal is excellence of character. It's being the best version of yourself that you can imagine yourself being. And that comes from virtuous self-control. So I always make that distinction. Now, moving on to the link between virtuous self-control and pleasure. It's been said that what drives human behavior is being drawn toward pleasure and being driven from pain. Now, the Stoics have been criticized for saying that virtue is its own reward, as if living with virtue is beyond pleasure or pain. The interesting thing there is that virtue does have its own category of pleasure, if I put it that way. This is the pleasure of an excellent choice. It's the pleasure of integrity. It's setting a standard for yourself of excellence, bringing that standard to mind in the moment when you're faced with a circumstance and you need to do something, and then choosing to live up to that standard of excellence, whatever the challenge. So it's not the pleasure of achieving a goal. Achievement is not something that is up to you. You can make choices to achieve something, but whether or not you achieve it, that is not something that is in your power. And this is classic Stoic philosophy. The pleasure of achievement is a matter of fate permitting, but the pleasure of pursuing a worthy goal by worthy means can be yours as an act of your will. It's yours to choose in any moment. Musonius Rufus, who was the teacher of Epictetus, said, begin quote, "If we were to measure what is good by how much pleasure it brings, nothing would be better than self-control. If we were to measure what is to be avoided by its pain, nothing would be more painful than lack of self-control." End quote. And this is from fragment 24. So for those of us who consider ourselves Stoic strength athletes, we're not making the excellent choice because it will give us pleasure. We're making it because it's the excellent choice. And that is reason enough. That we experience pleasure or joy or any reward as a result of that excellent choice is a bonus, but it's not the motivation. It just so happens that living with virtuous self-control is also the most effective way of operating in the world. That is to say that it's the most effective way of actually creating the circumstances and the experiences that we prefer to have. However, in the moment, knowing the excellent choice we're about to make may well result in consequences we would prefer not to experience. In other words, it's a negative consequence. This wouldn't cause us to hesitate. In those circumstances, the only, if I put it this way, payoff is that we exercised our virtuous self-control. That is all the pleasure that is necessary, if pleasure is what a person were seeking. Of course, that's not what we're seeking. We're striving for something different, something better. We're striving for excellence as human beings. Excellence that must start with ourselves, but by design doesn't end there. We want excellence for everyone, but it must and can only start with ourselves. Through our example, through the actions, through the virtuous actions that we take, we are creating a better society. Starts with ourselves, probably extends out toward the people that we interact with the most, our family, our loved ones, co-workers. And from there, if all goes well, fate permitting, in other words, it grows and it moves outward in ever-expanding circles until the entire world is affected. And this is the strength of virtuous self-control. If we want a better world, we make ourselves better first. There's no other way, because that makes it a choice. Sure, we could, wait for someone else to change, but that is chance. It's out of our hands. So the most effective way of moving forward with, I'd like a better world, I'd like things to be better, is, okay, what can I choose to do? And if you think about it, is it fair to ask for excellence from others when we aren't willing to make the effort ourselves? Can we, with integrity, expect others to do what we are unwilling to do? Not even necessarily that we're going to succeed. Again, we're not hinging the experience of our own excellence on the outcomes of our actions, because those outcomes are beyond our power. What we hinge our experience on is the choice to be excellent in the moment, to make the excellent choice. In the quote from the Jim Kyridian, I say that there is no pleasure as pure as that of exercising your virtuous self-control. What I mean by that is that any pleasure that is outside of your choice, and that being pleasure that is of the physical senses, taste, touch, or social pleasure, the responses of others, the physical pleasure of creating something, of achieving a goal, any of those are actually beyond your power. In essence, then, the only pleasure you can claim is the ability to choose excellence in the moment. The results of that choice are not up to you. Now, I've gone a little bit into why virtue is its own reward. I'm just going to go a little bit further into that. Claiming that virtue is its own reward is often criticized as foolishness or idealistic, or just plain wrong, as if it's a nice idea, but it doesn't align with human nature. It's argued that we pursue goals for the pleasure of achieving them. We love others for the pleasure of having them love us back. We eat for the pleasure of a full belly or for the taste of the food. With that perspective, however, that puts pleasure in the achievement of goals that are beyond us, or it puts pleasure in the choices made by others in regard to us, or it puts pleasure in the body itself. Of course, that's where the pleasure is. But in all of these instances, this puts pleasure beyond our choice. Pleasure, then, has become a game of chance, of fate permitting, beyond our ability to choose. The path of Stoic strength offers pleasure that's not dependent on chance. You can choose to operate with virtuous self-control in the moment. Every moral value requires an act of virtue. So in other words, virtue is the value put into action. And as I'm arguing here, virtue, putting that value into action, is its own reward. Living by virtue creates that value upon which that virtue is based in the very moment it is enacted. It's instantaneous success. It's the instantaneous experience of the value itself. Because virtue encompasses the experience of living the value we strive to achieve in the very moment we make that choice. The reward is built in. For example, the instant that you enact the virtue of courage in the face of a challenge, you are being courageous. That your courageous act will achieve some external circumstance for yourself or for others is not up to you. If you need to achieve the external circumstance in order to have the reward of being courageous, you may well be denied that experience. But by living with virtue, by making a virtuous choice, you have your reward the moment that you enact the choice. Any external result of the reward is bonus. Choosing to eat healthy is to experience health. Even if the body does not respond in that instant, you know you are making the excellent choice. Choosing to build your business is to experience wealth. Even if your bank account does not grow in that instant, you know you're making the excellent choice. Choosing to love your child, for example, is to experience love. Even if your child slams their bedroom door after having stomped down the hallway and claim they wish they'd never been born as a response to a rule that you are enforcing in your home, and you do it out of love because you know it's what they need to stay safe or to grow in maturity, you know that you are making the excellent choice. Here's one last metaphor that I just want to end with that helped me get to this perspective for myself. So if my only purpose in playing a game of soccer or football as most of the world knows it. If my only purpose is to win, then I may resort to any means necessary to do so. I may cheat, I may try dirty tricks, I may try to break the rules in various ways. This may result in victory, but at the price of leaving myself open to the penalties enforced by the referee and the ill will of not only the opposing players, but my own teammates because of the ramifications of those poor choices. If my only purpose in playing is to demonstrate how good I can be, for example, how skilled my dribbling, how technically proficient my striking, then I may focus exclusively on my own play and not contribute or cooperate with my teammates. This may result in personal satisfaction in my own excellent play, but at the price of loss for the team. But if I understand, accept, and adhere to the rules of the game and play to the best of my ability within the rules, I will create an excellent experience, not only for myself, but for my teammates, for the opposing team players, for the referee, for the people who are watching the match. And that all occurs whether we win or lose. It's playing with excellence within the context of the game. The rules dictate how the game is to be understood and how we can best experience it for the brief time that it's going on. Virtuous self-control is its own reward, and that reward is happiness in the moment, flourishing in the moment, optimal living in the moment as a matter of choice. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Stoic Strength Trainer podcast, please do share it with someone you believe might like it too. This is Corey. If even one more person learns to operate with virtuous self-control in the moment of choice, the world has become a better place. Catch you next time.